Take it away.
All right. We want to welcome all of you today to our Zoom call with our commissioners and experts from the Texas Workforce Commission and the Governor's Office. We know that a lot of you have questions. We've been fielding questions in our office for the last few weeks, and we really would like for you to hear from our experts because we know there's a lot of questions, and this whole situation is very new to all of us. So first of all, I would like to recognize Commissioner Aaron Demerson, who represents employers for the Texas Workforce Commission, and he is one of our hosts for today's session. So, Commissioner, we'll let you take it away and introduce your staff.
Okay, good. Janie, thanks so much for the opportunity, and thank you for hosting the second virtual phone call that's focused on those that are self-employed and small businesses in your region. We appreciate all that you're doing, your dedication, your leadership and commitment, and what you're doing in that region. A good working relationship, and just excited to continue in that regard, especially around these situations. For those that are on the calls, I want you guys to know the Texoma Workforce Solutions Office and Janie and her team, those are the boots on the ground for anything that you need. And I always say these are very interesting times. We have some cases of a lot of layoffs and furloughs along those lines, but even with that, we have some employers that are actually hiring right now. And so we're just gonna do what we can to make a difference in that regard. But I want you to know Janie and her team are very important, a very important component for you as you move forward. I want to say on behalf of Governor Abbott and myself, thanks to all of these businesses that are on the call, on the call, not only for what you're doing today, but what you've always done, and that's basically taking care of business. We appreciate the investment that you're making in our state and the investment that you're making in the lives of our Texans. Governor Abbott is actually getting ready to do a press conference right now, and so interesting times as we look at slowly reopening Texas, with safety being a priority, looking at essential businesses and the like. The strike force capacity team that he's put together are meeting and making progress in regards to what we need to do next. And so, but thank you guys for what you're doing. On our team, we have 4 dynamic employment law attorneys, and Tommy Simmons has joined me here. You have Villisca, who's on the Zoom today, and also Elsa Ramos, and Mario Hernandez is also a part of our team. And Mario is actually there answering some of those hotline calls that are coming in along those lines while we participate in this activity. But these guys have been on the front line over the past month, answering a lot of questions. They're very knowledgeable about what's happening. I think they've learned a whole lot in regards, in a fast way, to keep up with the questions that our employers have. And even on the employee side, Commissioner Julian Alvarez is commissioner that represents labor. We're beginning to help in that regard as much as we can before sending them back over on that side. And so a few things that have been done in regards to with Governor Abbott taking action when he actually waived the 1-week requirement for filing. We actually waived the search requirements here at TWC, and just a number of other initiatives that have been taken. Adriana Cruz and Kelly Spillane, I don't know if Adriana's on the line from the governor's office, but she heads the governor's economic development and tourism team. And she would bring up any updates that they have in regards to what Governor Abbott is doing on that side. But I know there's a press conference, and so Janie, they may be taking care of business with that. But a number of calls that we've had over the past 4 weeks, we've paid out a huge amount of money, about $500 million or so. I forget, over 100 million, Tommy says thus far. And so those are folks that are receiving funds to this day. An unprecedented amount of phone calls that we've received, and doing a lot to make sure that we're in a position to answer those calls. We have actually hired more people. We've increased the call center capacity from 4 to 8. We're working 7 to 7 as well, 7 days a week, as a matter of fact, to make sure that we're in a position to answer the calls. What I want to end with before we get to question and answers is just to let you guys know that here in Texas, everybody will be served. We're Texans, and we'll get past this, but there won't be anybody left behind in that regards as it relates to filing your claim and receiving the benefits that are due to you. And so we're going to do what we can to provide legendary customer service to make a difference wherever we can. But Janie, I thank you guys for everything that you're doing at the local level. And again, it's our role to partner with you so that we can ensure that our Texas employers are getting the best information they can, and they have the best information available as they look to move forward from that standpoint. And so I'll go ahead and turn it back over to you guys, and we can get into the Q&A. But if Adriana or Kelly are on the line, I'd like them to speak as well. And if not, we'll move right away to the Q&A. Or Marcia, you guys, whatever you guys want us to do from that standpoint, we'll follow your lead. Thank you so much.
Kelly, would you like to have a few comments? Adriana's not joined us yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much. I would just like to thank you for including the Office of the Governor in this webinar. We're honored to partner with the TWC and to be brought to your community to answer questions. Adriana, I am certain, is busy with the Governor's strike force at the moment and the announcement that's about to be made. They are all hands on deck on that front and focused on reopening Texas safely and strategically and doing that right for all of us. And so I am honored to be here. I am the small business advocate. I am a specialist in small business questions and also relatively knowledgeable on the SBA products and resources wider than just the SBA, funding resources and other solutions for businesses. So I'm standing by to answer questions. And again, thank you for having me.
Thank you. We appreciate you being here today. So Aaron, do you want to start reading the questions, or?
Yeah, we'll take it away and kind of go from there. So again, appreciate everybody on the call, and we'll get started away. So the first question we have is, does the credit of the applicant get verified for the $10,000 advance? Meaning, does a credit score affect it as a regular loan? So Kelly, you may want to speak to that. And I guess the question is going to the fact that if you're applying for the $10,000 advance, are they looking at your credit score along those lines?
Yes, they are actually, and that's quite important. I've just been sent a summary of some of the reasons that companies are getting declined, and credit score is important. You need to show that you have a credit history and that is workable. I guess they're not looking for it to be in tip-top condition, but you need to show that you have some decent class of a credit score, and you also, most importantly, need to be able to demonstrate repayability. You need to be able to show that you can repay this loan. I'm hoping that's answering the question.
Yeah, that is.
I think so.
And so the second question, how can an individual track the application or status once submitted, once an application is submitted via the SBA link?
I'm afraid you can't. That is probably one of the biggest frustrations I'm hearing from companies. Once you submit it, you'll receive an acceptance email giving you an application number, and then you will hear nothing. And you actually, even if you're lucky enough to get through to somebody on the line, which some people have been lucky enough, the person on the call center line is unlikely to be able to tell you where your application is in the process. I have also heard that while the ambition was to approve or at least give an answer within 3 weeks of applying, up to 21 working days actually, which is longer than 3 weeks. That was the original ambition. It's actually taking 6 to 7 weeks now. However, they have recruited many more people, they have added capacity, and the process is improving all the time. And since I have the mic, actually, I'm not sure, you may all know this also, but just in the last short time, the last few hours, additional funding for the PPP and the EIDL loans have been approved federally. So we will see more funding coming into that system very soon. So that's very exciting.
That's excellent news.
Good. So another question, if an individual does not qualify for the $10,000 advance, will he or she have options to a low interest loan via any bank?
Just
Correct.
say the last piece again, via Invent.
Yeah, via a low interest loan via any bank.
I am not familiar with that last word. If a person doesn't qualify for the advance, I speculate that means they're not going to be eligible for a loan from the SBA.
Yeah.
Because in fact, lots of people are getting advances and then not getting approval for loans. So it, you know, if you're not going to get an advance, well then I would urge them to look at eligibility factors to understand why that is. And indeed, there are alternatives for low interest loans. And I would recommend the community development financial institutions. There are many of them across Texas. There's a website where you can find the one nearest you. Perhaps the Invent is a CDFI, I'm not sure. But CDFIs are the place to go if you find you're not making progress with the Small Business Administration. CDFIs have a broader view as to who they'll deal with. They will not be as demanding in relation to credit history. They will still look for a credit score, and they will still need to be reassured that you can repay the loan, but you will get a lower interest loan, and you will find more generous terms. So it's CDFI, Community Development Financial Institutions. If you Google that word and find my CDFI, you will find a link that you can enter your zip code in, and you'll be able to find the Community Development Financial Institutions in your region.
Thank you, Kelly. And then one other question. Has the government established the purpose or correct use of the $10,000 advance? I think, the EIDL, idle loan, and I guess proper uses for that.
Sure. Yep, that $10,000 advance was to get money into pockets so that they could get dealing with emergency situations and you know, bills that really need to get sorted. The idle funding is for a broad enough selection of uses, the kind of needs that a business will have, right? You can actually use it for payroll if you want to. However, the advice is that if you've applied for the PPP, that you use that funding for payroll. But you can actually use idle funding for payroll. You can use it for overheads like rent and utilities. You can even use it for accounts payable and raw material purchases. So there is a broad view as to how you use that funding, but you need to use it in the manner that you said you were going to in your application.
Good. And so the funding that's recently been approved, is that along the lines of the PPP, or is it a combination? Is it idle and PPP, or just PPP?
I haven't had a chance to look at the exact details, but I do know it is more funding for the PPP and more funding for idle. My understanding is that originally what was sought was much more money for the PPP and a smaller amount for the idle. I think they were actually looking for more or less the same amount again, which was another 360 billion. I think they got slightly less, but it's still up there in the 300 billion range. So it's going to be another serious injection of funding.
Good. Thanks for that information.
Okay.
This says, can I file? And that's a simple question there, Elsa. I don't know if it leads off of.
Yeah, simple question, right? Only 3 words, can I file? If we're talking about unemployment benefits, then yes, you can file. If your employer laid you off temporarily or reduced your hours, file for unemployment benefits. That was basically the first wave of unemployment claims that our agency got. After that, after the shutdowns and, you know, the shelter in place, if you were not an employee, but were there an independent contractor or sole proprietor, and you found yourself no longer working or your hours were reduced, you too can now file. Under the CARES Act, we have Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, PUA, that provides funds and monies for you if you're no longer working. So short answer, can I file? Yes. Should you? I would think so at this time. Take advantage of the monies, like the commissioner said, that are out there that you might be eligible for.
Good. So it says, do I file for regular unemployment? And the second part of that, do I need to check the box that says disaster relief benefits? And so, Villisca, do I file for regular unemployment? And if so, do I need to check the box that says disaster relief benefit?
So it depends. If you are filing as an employee who was laid off and you are trying to seek regular unemployment through Texas, then, and you were laid off due to COVID, then yes, you would say that you were laid off due to COVID-19 disaster. If you're an independent contractor, a sole proprietor, do you file for unemployment? How do you do that? You go to the Texas Workforce website, like a W-2 employee would do. But the difference is, yes, you'd file for regular unemployment, but specifically our latest guidance is that you would select reduced hours and COVID-19 as the reason. So again, if you're an independent contractor or a sole proprietor, you file for regular old unemployment, select reduced hours, COVID-19, and the system's going to automatically display questions after that for you to answer so that we can process your claim under the PUA provisions.
Good. Thank you. So multiple chat questions about zero benefits from self-employed. And so why is my payment letter 0? Do I need to refile?
Okay, so we do have a few questions about the self-employed claimants who are filing under PUA. And I sought some clarification as well from our Deputy Director of UI on some of these, because I do know that there is a lot of need and frustration and uncertainty out there. So if you were a sole proprietor or independent contractor and you filed for unemployment and you were rejected because you had insufficient wages, when they look at this back, look back period, if you had insufficient wages, it's going to say 0 because you didn't have sufficient wages to have a weekly benefit amount assigned to you. The guidance that I'm getting as far as the question, do I refile, is please don't refile. If you filed already, our UI division is reviewing those cases if you didn't have sufficient wages to see if now you didn't qualify for regular unemployment. And I know we're throwing out all these words. You didn't qualify for regular, but you may qualify for the PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. So we're being told if you've already filed, don't refile, okay? Don't do that. But you are going to be wanting to make payment requests every 2 weeks. So if you showed 0, one of the questions, some say I'm approved and the payment request shows 0, it's because they're having to now reprocess the PUA. I can also tell you that as of today, we had 160,000 open assignments for PUA that are being processed by our UI division. So looked like they planned that a lot of decisions were going to go out today. So I know it's hard to sit tight when you're not working or you can't be working at your business, but they are getting processed and hopefully that 0 will turn around as soon as it does get processed. It says when they are requested, is it okay if I read the question, Commissioner, as I'm going through those together?
Yes, and so hit the second bullet there, and I'll come back and summarize because we gave them a lot of good information on that first one, but that one really
Right.
Insufficient wages. If it's 0, don't refile. You got that?
Right. Do not refile if you've already filed. If you haven't filed, file. Absolutely.
Okay.
So that's why some say approved, but the payment is 0. It's because it hasn't taken into account, regular UI to the PUA. And I'll let you take it from there, Commissioner.
Okay, good. And so then after that, they'll review it and then determine if you're eligible for PUA. And also there's a third truncation of money there, possibly. That's a PF. Tell me out with that.
Right, the extension for an extra 13 weeks of benefits. Yes, sir. So now you can get up to 39 weeks. I believe that's correct.
Okay, good. Yeah. So that's information that's very valuable. Folks were asking. I think that's an additional $600 if I'm not mistaken. So.
That too, of course. Yes, sir.
Yeah, the FPUC. That's a federal pandemic unemployment compensation. Okay. Good.
And yes, your independent contractor sole proprietors are eligible for the extra $600 on top of their regular weekly, whenever they get that processed.
Okay, good. All right. So Elsa, go ahead and read down the next questions then there.
When they're requesting payments, it's telling them that they are receiving 0. They don't know if they answered a question wrong or applied before the CARES Act passed. What do they need to do? Yet again, based on the guidance we're getting from our UI division, if you've already applied and were denied, don't do anything else. It is saying 0 because it probably was processed before CARES Act, or you have processed after as an independent contractor with no wages that are showing for you. So at this point, sit tight, let them get processed through our system. But I can tell you, one moment, that the minimum weekly benefit on the PUA is $207 a week. Sole proprietor, independent contractor claimants out there, $207 a week under the regular weekly benefit plus the extra $600 on top for a total of $807. If you're an independent contractor, sole proprietor claimant who wants to make more than the $207, you would need to submit proof of your earnings or income for 2019 to try and get that up. But the minimum is $207, and then the $600 on top of that.
Good. That's good explanation there. That's Janie and Marcia not well known, but that minimum of 207.
Yes.
Extra 600 of that goes on. But if you want more, or you think you're entitled to more, then file your 2019 or one of those tax forms that would be the route to go.
And Commissioner, that leads us to another question that I just saw someone post here that probably goes right along with what you're talking about. Said that they understood they had until 12/26 to turn in their 2019 tax returns. And then they said, will we still get the 600 if we don't get the taxes in?
So if I may say, yes. So Yet again, according to the information I got just earlier today, sole proprietors and independent contractors can submit proof of earnings/income, preferably their 2019 tax returns, but we understand that there is an extension on that. So a lot of sole proprietors and independent contractors have not done their 2019 tax returns. And I continue reading. However, not doing so does not hold up your payment. So I'm going to repeat that. Not submitting your proof of income or earnings for 2019 does not hold up your payment. You will still receive the minimum of 207, but you would need to submit your extra income paperwork to get that up to max of 521 per week.
Yeah, good answer. So basically, if there's nothing there, then 207 at a minimum does not impact the 600 that's on the other.
Correct.
And but if you want it higher, or think it should be higher, then the submission of income tax information, wage type information could impact that.
That is my understanding. Yes, sir.
Okay, good. All right, so we'll go to this. Why did I get a letter that states I do not have any income reported? Villisca?
Sure. So if you get a letter that says you don't have any income reported, chances are you're a sole proprietor or an independent contractor. So when you file for unemployment, typically you file for Texas unemployment, right? State unemployment benefits. And that's for people who have been receiving wages, W-2, basically. So if you're a sole proprietor or an independent contractor, you'll probably get rejected for state unemployment because you have insufficient wages to have a valid claim. But that's why Elsa was saying you don't need to do anything. The system's going to flag your info and see if you qualify for pandemic unemployment assistance under the CARES Act, which is federal law. So you may not get on the state side, but then through the CARES Act, you qualify for the unemployment. So that's why that's pretty standard. You should expect that. If you're filing as a sole proprietor or an independent contractor, expect it for the first notice to say, nope, you don't have enough wages. That's normal because you don't have W-2 wages. They're still going to process your application for PUA though, to see if you can get that, like Elsa said, the minimum 207 plus the 600 on top, or even more if you supply your tax returns.
Thank you, Villisca. And so I'm going to pivot to Tommy over here for this next question, and you'll kind of see Tommy Simmons here. We're practicing our safe distance.
Hey, Tommy.
Senior legal counsel here. And so you'll see Tommy there. And I can't change his name, so he's not Commissioner Aaron Dermison. He's Tommy Simmons. But it says, I live in Oklahoma, but work in Texas, self-employed. Where do I file?
Federal law gives an unemployed person the right to file in any state where they live or where they have worked. So that individual could file in Oklahoma and still avail themselves of that pandemic unemployment assistance, or they would have the option of filing in Texas, but both states are going to follow the federal minimum benefit that Elsa mentioned earlier of $207 per week, which can be increased if proof of earnings is shown. So if Oklahoma is the most comfortable state to file in because that's where they live, they should feel free to file in Oklahoma. Federal law would allow that.
Okay. It says, I travel for work, but am self-employed. Last job was out of state. Where do I file?
Similar to that answer, because federal law gives an unemployed individual the right to file in any state where they live. It sounds like this individual might live in Texas and they could file in Texas even though their last job was out of state and they may have worked in some other states still. They could file in Texas and show proof of earnings. The IRS paperwork for 2019 would be the key to that. And they could qualify for at least the 207 minimum benefit plus the $600 FPUC benefit, that federal pandemic unemployment assistance.
Okay, and so I'm going to read this one into the records here, and we'll try to answer this one as well. It says, I entered the wrong employer. How do I change that? The claimant is self-employed but works for someone. She filed on her employer when she should have filed under her own name. She actually got approved under the incorrect employer information. Incorrect employer and claimant have been trying to get through to correct it, since there's nowhere online to correct or change any information. So it sounds like someone got in, they may have filed a certain way, recognized that they need to change that, and then they're trying to call in to do it because you can't do it online. And so how do I change it? How do we change it?
All right, that's one of those things that's more complicated because it involves authorization to change claim information, and partly as a safeguard against potential fraud, which unfortunately exists with any system. There is the need for somebody to intervene with the agency, and that means getting through to a person with the Unemployment Insurance Division. So if that is a continuing problem for any individual, they can send an email to us, and we can get that to the proper department, and get a staff member to contact the claimant and help them change that.
Good. So Tommy, thanks. And Janie, that's an important point that if anyone is actually misfiled or feel like they misfiled, trying to do it online is not going to work, and we'll be in a position to try to help on this side so that they get somebody, a live person that they can talk to.
Yes, we've had 2 or 3 people who've called with that issue.
Okay.
Tommy, they're asking what is the email address they send the email to?
All right, they can send it to Commissioner Demerson's general email address, which is employerinfo, EMPLOYERINFO, employerinfo @twc.state.tx.us, and we will refer it to the appropriate person in the Unemployment Insurance Division. And they have staff members who are devoted to tasks like that. That involves some troubleshooting, and we'll make sure that it gets to the appropriate department.
Okay. Good. So the next question would be for Elsa. Elsa had a 3-word question, and now we have a 4. It says, "Do I get the $600?" Now you may try it back.
Yeah, so short answer to the short question is yes. If you're going to be receiving regular unemployment or pandemic unemployment assistance benefits, you will get the $600. And this is also true if it's based on this question comes up a lot, on reduced hours, or if you're part of a shared work program, you get the $600.
Good. All right, thank you. Why does it state I need to call for more information and I cannot get through? Melissa, you're going to try that one?
Sure. I think the answer might be a little obvious to some, that the system just overwhelmed right now. We're increasing call centers. We have expanded our hours 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. 7 days a week instead of your standard Monday through Friday 8 to 5. We're trying to get more volunteers. We're adding more people to try to process these claims and answer questions. I think the bottom line reality of it is there's just such a high amount. I think the most amount of calls we got at one point was 1.6 million calls in a day, which is more than we've handled in a year. So when you look at it like that, it's just an extreme amount that we're trying our best to work through. So unfortunately, it's saying that because there is more information that is needed, and that's the standard way we need to get it. And unfortunately, the system is just a little overwhelmed. So keep trying to contact them. If you are having issues with that, email us at that employer info email address and give us your name, your phone number, your social security if you feel comfortable with that. We can forward that information to the appropriate department so they can contact you. So we will do whatever we can on our end to speed up that process, and we do apologize for it. I know it's not hard, it's not easy to deal with this. It's really stressful. So if we can help you with that, by all means, email us at employer info, and we will do our best to help you out.
Good. And Melissa, thanks for mentioning that. And so if it's an employer-related situation, the team here, we're going to do what we can to help you. So whoever asked that question, make sure that you get to us so that we can get you somebody that you can visit with. Why will it not let me enter my correct wages? The system changes it after I enter it. Tommy?
Yes, that's a tricky one because that sounds like it might have to do either with self-employment wages that may be supplementing wages reported by an employer, or it may be due to some unknown glitch with the claim filing portal. Either way, it sounds like human intervention is going to be necessary for that to be resolved. So that would fall into the category of send an email detailing the problem with identifying information for your company or for the claimant, and we can get it to the proper department so staff can contact the person with the question and help them resolve it individually. Sounds like an individual problem that will require individual intervention.
Yeah, because the system is changing it automatically. We need human intervention to make that happen and get it to us, and we'll do that. It says, why is it telling me to enter my employer's EIN? It's telling me to get it off my last W-2, but I receive a 1099. Do I put the employer's information I actually work for, even though I am self-employed?
So in this case, yeah, back to Tommy saying it could be a little tricky. The way our system is set up to take unemployment claims, it's to take unemployment claims from people who are no longer working for an employer, someone who's been reporting their wages. So, you know, for the most part, you would have worked for someone, reported your wages, and there would be that employer identification number. If you as an independent contractor are working for someone, performing some job under contract, under federal law, normally when you file for unemployment, you are required to list your last work. So air quotes, there I am. Your last work, not necessarily your last employment. So it's not improper if you performed a contract service for a company to list that company gets notice of the claim, but because that company doesn't report wages for you, if you're correctly classified as an independent contractor, there would be no liability to that company. So if you have a company that you are performing services for as a contractor, list that company, and then let the system, you know, process your claim, which would then kick you over when you get denied, if you don't have sufficient base period wages, gets you over to the PUA, the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance.
Good. Thank you, Elsa. So it says, employed person that was laid off. A company is shut down and could not get through to anyone to get the information from the company to file.
All right, that sounds like it's possibly a question of proper earnings or wages for the calendar quarters in the base period for the claim. And the law allows TWC to assign wage credits based on the best evidence available. And if the best evidence available kind of earnings documentation, like an IRS income tax return for a previous year, then that can be taken as the best evidence. That sounds like it might require the unsuccessful claimant to file an appeal. That kind of appeal is given the highest priority in our system, and it is scheduled as soon as possible to quickly resolve that, because once the wages for the calendar quarters have been established, then all kinds of pieces fall into place and the person can start drawing benefits. So by all means, file an appeal, and also don't hesitate to send an email for a claimant. That email would be laborinfo, LABORINFO, laborinfo at twc.state.tx.us. And that goes straight to the Office of the Commissioner representing labor, and they can help get that to the proper department.
Good, thank you. And this employer question, claimants who do not qualify for the shared work program or regular UI may be eligible for the Pandemic Unemployment Assistance Program. Employers are looking for clarity, Pandemic Unemployment Assistance. And that's that PUA that we mentioned. Villisca?
Yeah, so the basics are Pandemic Unemployment Assistance was passed through the CARES Act, so it's federal law. It is for sole proprietors and independent contractors. It goes through the year 2020. It can last for up to 39 weeks, a minimum of 207, as Elsa stated. If you provide your tax income, tax documents from a prior year, most recent prior year you have available, you can get an increase in that, plus the additional 600. The additional 600 goes through July 31st. But those are the basics again. It goes through 2020, the general PUA, the pandemic assistance, up to 39 weeks, plus the additional 600 that'll go through the end of July.
Yeah. And so you apply regularly, as if you're applying for UI benefits. If that's denied, then it kicks over to the PUA. That's a 207 at a minimum. Could be higher if you submit tax returns. And then the additional 600 is tied to the PF. So that goes back to the 807 from that point. Okay. And that's a minimum. It could be higher. Villisca, thanks for handling that. Self-employed person filed claim and received notice it was processed and they could request payment, but it does not tell them how much they will be receiving. So somebody self-employed, they filed a claim, received a notice that it was processed, that they could request payment, but it does not tell them how much they will be receiving. Elsa?
Yeah, so back to the self-employed PUA, if it doesn't tell you and you were able to file, you will be receiving 207 because you probably have not submitted any other documentation to prove your earnings or corroborate or substantiate your earnings for the last year. 207 plus a 600 on top of that is what you should be getting, whether it says it or not.
Good, thank you. Is there any timelines on when payments will be received once they request? Some are 2 to 3 weeks out since payment request.
Yes, so 2 to 3 weeks, technically about 3 weeks is about the standard for processing unemployment claims. To my understanding, it is not taking longer than that. If anything, it's taking less time. So about 3 weeks is the standard amount of time for a turnaround on a claim. So again, I know it's tough, but we're asking people to just try their best to be patient. If you get your claim in, you're in the queue, it's being processed and investigated, and we're going to be issuing decisions as quick as we possibly can.
Okay, and I know they're working hard to get those out, and it's not for a want to not do that. We're going to work even harder to make sure that we're getting funds out because we do understand the complexity of the situation right now.
And Commissioner, if I may add something to that. Once you, again, sole proprietor, independent contractor, someone who didn't qualify for regular, once you file for the pandemic unemployment assistance, the PUA, filing alone does not get you starting to get monies. Please understand, filing gets your claim in the system, but you're still instructed, and I'm getting this again from our UI division, you're still instructed to make payment requests. You will only get paid for the weeks that you request benefits for. So you're instructed after you file that in 2 weeks, I believe, you're supposed to make a payment request for the previous 2 weeks, and you need to do that. So I am sharing that information out now, that just because you got your claim filed doesn't mean you're going to start receiving benefits. It's really important that you make those payment requests, which is in addition to filing the claim.
And also, while you're talking about that, how do they do just that?
How do they do that? So either online, you can do that, or on the phone, and they get instructions when they file, because I also confirm that when you file for benefits, you will receive filing instructions on when to make your payment requests, and you will be assigned a day that is special to you. So, you know, you, Commissioner Demersons, you file on a Monday, you, Tommy Simmons, you file on Tuesdays, for example, and they give you the date, and then every 2 weeks after that. So it's really important. So please understand, just because you filed and you're waiting in the queue, you might have an approved claim, but if you don't make those payment requests every 2 weeks, you may not receive any monies. And this is true for people on regular unemployment benefits. This is not an extra burden for independent contractors or sole proprietors. This is true for anyone requesting benefits, because like Tommy pointed out, these safeguards are in place to ensure that fraud is not committed, that the benefits are paid out according to the law.
Okay, and if the dashboard not allowing them to do that, then if any individuals having problems with that, then refer back to some of the email address, the employer info@twc.state.tx.us, and we'll take care of that. I think I saw someone in the chat saying that their dashboard does not allow them to do that, and so see us, we can try to impact that, because it should allow that.
And I see we have a few people who have said that they have requested payment and didn't receive anything. So again, if they would email you guys, you could look into that.
Yeah, it's almost a status check, because if they're requesting payment, then they're doing their part from that standpoint. And so yeah, it should be moving from that standpoint. So maybe we can perhaps get a status from that It says, I have no way to contact with calling. So the email address is going to be put in chat. Probably already been put in chat.
It is.
Ms. Rogers, I think that is in chat. And so you'll have access to that information. And you're probably right there with Jamie and Marcia. And so if you don't get it, she said, thank you. So we're good. All right.
Okay.
The next question, if a business places employees on part-time hours, they were full, and they drop their benefits like insurance, the employee did not apply for UI as well. Elsa.
The business places employees on part-time hours, can they drop, can the employer drop the employee's medical benefits, for example? You would want to check with your plan provider, whoever's providing the insurance. You have a contract with them under which conditions you can stop, I suppose, if you're talking about the employer portion of that. I don't know if you're able to do that. That may be more a question for the Texas Department of Insurance, or Tommy may have some, extra comments on that. But the follow-up, can the employee file for UI as well on reduced hours? Yes, the employee can file on reduced hours. At that point, it's a mathematical equation whether or not they'd be able to get benefits under partial unemployment. So the only way to know for sure really is for that employee to file. So I'm not sure if you want to address the employer dropping, I suppose, the medical insurance question, Tommy.
Yes, just a quick note on that. I'm not an insurance law expert. That really would be a question for the Texas Department of Insurance. But what I can tell you is that if the employee is, part-time, but they're still regularly scheduled to work at least 30 hours each week, they retain their eligibility for the company health insurance plan, and the law would not allow them to drop coverage for that individual simply because they went from 40 to 32 or 30 hours per week. They'd still be eligible. Now, if they drop below the normal eligibility guideline under the Texas Small Employer Health Insurance Availability Act, or consistent with federal law as well, if they lose coverage for the health insurance benefit, that would be a COBRA qualifying event, and they would be entitled to get the required notice of their right to continue participation in the company's health benefit plan under the conditions allowed, which allows the employee to maintain their coverage under Texas law for up to 9 months, under the federal law for up to 18 months, as long as they pay 102% of the premium for that. The premium cost plus a 2% administrative fee. It gets kind of complicated, but that would be a COBRA qualifying event, and they'd have to be very, very careful. Also, they should not do that before talking with their health insurance provider, their health insurance carrier, because there are certain eligibility requirements that health insurance carriers can impose on their clients, on their policyholders. That means the companies. So be careful about that, and probably best to contact TDI.
All right. So we have a small business owner. His FEIN number was wrong on the UI paperwork, showing where one of his employees filed for unemployment insurance. What should he do about this?
Okay, on that question, if some kind of wrong information shows up for the company on TWC paperwork, that's something that our tax department is really good about fixing. If you'll send that email to employerinfo@twc.state.tx.us, detailing the problem, showing the correct information, and highlighting the information that is wrong, we can get that over to the tax department, and they usually fix that pretty quickly. It depends upon the exact thing that is wrong, but it is all fixable. It does require the intervention of a tax department person, though.
Good. A small business employer was denied the payroll protection plan. He asked if he and the other two owners of the company could file for UI.
So short answer, yes. So if you are a small business owner and you either, I guess, had a corporation or LLC, then you would have been reporting your wages and paying unemployment taxes on yourself as employees of the company. So you would be able to file for unemployment and have a claim for regular unemployment benefits. If you were not reporting your wages, maybe you guys were some kind of partnership or some business entity that, you were not an employee of your company, just the owner of your company, and you don't qualify for the regular unemployment, you can still file under the PUA, Pandemic Unemployment Assistance, would provide you then eligibility for benefits. So short answer, yes, you can file.
Good. Thank you. So other self-employed that says additional information needed, they cannot get through to give anyone the additional information even after repeated calls. I think that's going to fall back in line with what we've talked about, that employer info email for those employers that are having trouble getting through. Our office will be in a position to assist with that. So I think Janie and Marcia have shared that email address, and we'll take care of any emails that come in through that route. Villisca, you want to add?
We've had a couple of questions, one on those that we submitted earlier, one today, about the backdating of the claims. And I know we're getting close to the end of our time, so I thought we might want to talk about that. That people saying that their claims were backdated to 4/3, and they want to know, are they going to get paid back to that point in time? Is the $600 going to be backdated to that time? And what do they need to do to make sure they get that money that was, like, if they got laid off on March 23rd and they're just now getting to file?
Okay. Yes, ma'am. This sounds like it has to do with a previous question that I remember came up. Yes, it was 0 benefits from self-employed. Some say approved, and then payment request shows 0. What should they do? And basically, it's one of those where the system has not scanned that yet and has not found that particular claim issue. It sounds like what the problem is, if the filing date was 4/3/2020, then it sounds like that would have been the Wednesday was April the 1st, and Friday was 4/3/2020. Normally that would be backdated to the preceding Sunday in the first quarter. And that means that might not have had a valid base period, sufficient wages there. So they could try filing a subsequent initial claim and get a new base period. That might help the question. Or if the question relates to the availability of self-employment, unemployment benefits, which would be the PUA, then that could have something to do with the effective date of a PUA claim, which, if it relates back to before pandemic unemployment assistance became available under the law, that could be a problem. And that's something that can be fixed with individual intervention by the Unemployment Insurance Division. So you can send an email to the email address and detail the problem. We'll get it to the proper department with a request that they contact the claimant and help them individually resolve that problem.
Good. Jamie, I want to say this. We have one of the last questions here on paper to let Jennifer know that we received her information, and if she will contact us at employerinfo@TWC, we'll be able to help her as well. She's an independent contractor. Benefits were 0. She's gone through the process back and forth, and the system is kind of showing she's done everything that she needs to endpoint, but she hadn't heard anything regarding her claim and benefits, and it's been over 1 month now. And so we're going to probably do a status check on that to see if we can get some information. So Jennifer, if you would just send us that information, we'll be in a position to get her a status and an update.
One of the questions that we've received 2 or 3 times is from people who are drawing Social Security, but they're also working, and they want to know if they can file for UI, if they would be eligible.
Elsa, you want to hit that? I think if they're working.
I'm sorry, family
Yes,
just
they
opened the
can.
door. Sorry about that. Yes,
They
yes, they
should be.
can. Yes, sorry, Villisca. Yes, they can. So someone came into, homeworking and children. Yes, they can. So if they were working, absolutely. If they were working and lost their job, Social Security aside, they can file for unemployment. The employer was reporting wages, and I don't see that would be a block. And I don't
Okay.
believe they have to report their Social Security, do they, Tommy?
No, Social Security benefits a long time ago used to be an offset against unemployment benefits, but that's no longer the case. That law was changed in the 90s. And so, that should not be a bar to collecting unemployment benefits. And if it is, then that would be a very simple thing to file an appeal and win, I would say.
Okay, that sounds good. And I noticed that we had another question about overtime. And I think I already know the answer to this question, but I will let you guys answer it. People are asking if, you know, if they're still working, but they're not getting that overtime that they were accustomed to. And they want to know if they would be considered reduced hours and if they could apply for unemployment.
That would be very doubtful due to the mathematics behind the reduced hours, and the federal guidance says that the stimulus benefits are not for people who find themselves without overtime pay. They're for people who are less than fully employed, you know, and basically 40 hours a week, or if their regular schedule is 40 hours a week and they've been getting 50 hours with 10 hours of overtime pay, if they lose that overtime pay, that by itself is not going to qualify them as unemployed.
Okay, one question that I received from an employer this week, they are going to furlough different departments in their organization on different weeks. And they're probably going to do this 3 or 4 times over the next few months. Should their people, once they go in and apply for their unemployment benefits, should they keep their claim open by continuing to request payment every 2 weeks, even when they go back for that 3 weeks? Or should they just wait and then come back in on the week that they're off?
Well, my view is that that would be 6 of one and half a dozen of the other. There's no harm in filing payment requests that go nowhere, as long as you don't fraudulently put, you know, wrong information down that you know is wrong, or if you withhold information that you're asked and you don't give it. If you don't do that, if that's not the problem, you just file a payment request and it doesn't get paid. That does not harm your ability to get paid later for valid claims that you file when you really are qualified and eligible to draw benefits. So they could do it. There's no harm in it that I see. There are some claimants who simply do not file during weeks in which they know that they're fully employed and they've earned a full paycheck. And then it's a simple enough matter to, you know, reopen their claim by filing new claim certifications, or if several weeks have passed, that might necessitate an additional claim.
Okay.
Elsa, is there anything you'd like to add about that?
No, and just that when Tommy says claim certifications, those are your payment requests. Those are the ones that you're making every 2 weeks. So like he was saying, if you choose to keep filing, to stay in the, you know, stay in the habit of filing, you just need to report your wages from employment, and then most likely you'll get 0 from the benefits because you've exceeded a certain threshold, because again, you're fully employed. So you'd get $0, which is fine. And then when you're reporting 0 wages on the weeks that you're no longer working, the benefits would kick back in. So continuing to file claim certifications just means those are your payment requests that you're doing every 2 weeks.
Yeah.
But it doesn't cancel your claim. The fact that you went back to work for 3 weeks doesn't cancel it, make it go away. Doesn't mean you have to start all over again and say, oh no, gosh, I have to go online and call someone and I'm going to be stuck. You don't have to do that. That claim that you filed in the last couple of months is going to stay basically open for a year.
Okay, that's what I thought, but I just want to make sure that we hear it from you guys. And I know that I've seen a couple of questions here where someone has asked about the idle loan and the advance money, and asking if they can keep the $10,000 advance if they're turned down for the idle loan. Kelly, I guess would be our expert on that.
Kelly is still on the line.
Kelly's on the line.
Kelly?
Just had to unmute myself there, sorry. Absolutely. Yes, they can keep the advance. That's really the purpose of it in fact, is really, where possible, to provide it as a subsidy or a grant almost. You know, it's a forgivable loan, presuming that you spend the money the way that you said you were going to. Back to the question earlier, you do need to spend it on the things that you said you would and the eligible things for the EIDL loan. So yes, that's quite nice to be able to keep that, although in this crisis it's probably only a small amount of money. If you have other questions that you want to go ahead with, please do. I do want a moment before we close out to just give you a quick update, having done a little bit of research on what was just approved today.
That would be great.
Okay, well, I'm going to talk for just a moment. I am going to share with you that an additional 500 billion in CARES Act funding was approved today. It's not all for the SBA. Some of it is going to hospitals, but 310 billion is going to the PPP. They are setting aside 60 billion for smaller lending institutions. I would imagine the spirit of that is to enable more small companies to actually access that money, because a lot of the money went to the bigger lending institutions and probably the more sophisticated companies out there. And so there's a lack of truly small businesses that have received the PPP, but now is a good opportunity. So that's 60 billion is earmarked or set aside for small businesses, and 10 billion of that is for grant, it says. I'm assuming when they say grant, this is from a newspaper article, I imagine that's for the 10,000 advances. By the way, this is interesting too, that they are now allowing farms and farm enterprises to apply for the PPP. They are now eligible, and they were not previous to this. I will also say that it's a good opportunity. Like I said, this funding is approved today. It'll probably take a day or two to get into the system. It's a good opportunity for small businesses who have not applied for various reasons. It's a good opportunity to find yourself a 7A lender in your community that you can work with to apply, now that we know that there's more money coming in. And again, I'll stress the CDFIs are a good place to go. Also, 3 large online companies have been approved as 7A lenders to disperse PPP money, and they would be PayPal, Intuit, which is also QuickBooks, and Square. And you can go online and they have a simple process for you to apply. So again, if you don't have a 7A lender that you have a relationship with, or one in your community, you could try the online route. And then I would just say one last thing, and that is the Office of the Governor Small Business Assistance Team is running a webinar tomorrow. And as it happens, we're partnering with North Texas partners for this event. You can register for it if you're interested in learning more about the SBA products and an update on all of that, as well as additional resources for small businesses. We have some fantastic people on our panel, and Elsa is actually on our panel talking about fantastic people. And the way to find your way to that registration is through the following web link. And if you don't catch this, you can find me through your hosts and I can get that information to you. But it's gov.texas.gov/business/event, and you can register. So thank you for that. And I'll just thank TWC and Texoma for having me as part of this, and to say that I'm honored to represent the Office of the Governor, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Kelly. We appreciate it. Commissioner, did you want to say anything? Looks like we're 3 minutes out from our allotted time.
Yeah, we're closing out. I was going to ask Kelly to close out, and she has fabulously. And Villisca, Elsa, and Tommy, I'll let them have a few remarks to close out. And Janie, just thank you guys for all that you're doing. I think it's very important. The self-employed, sole proprietors, gig contractors, that information is very important. So Elsa, Tommy, and Villisca, if you guys just kind of keep that clarified along those lines, I think our sole proprietors will now be in a position to move forward. They simply need to apply, and if they're turned down, it's going to move through the process. That's
right. Yes, sir. It has to move through the process.
Villisca, Elsa, and then Tommy and Janie, I've already said bye. Thank you guys so much. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you all for being with us today. We appreciate it. If you have any other questions, or if you missed something, we will have this posted on our website within probably a day, so that you can review this again. I know we go back and look at these ourselves, and these questions and answers. So if you want to check it out there, you can, or you can contact one of us at our Workforce Solutions Texoma website. Thank
Good,
you
thanks.
all.
I'm gonna let Villisca, Elsa, and Tommy, and we'll say bye. Villisca?
The last thing I wanted to throw out there is if you're an employer with questions, you can also reach out to Commissioner Demerson's office by phone. 2 numbers to call there. The first is our general hotline number for employers, 1-800-832-9394. Again, 1-800-832-9394. You can also reach us at 512-463-2826. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Villisca. Elsa?
Yes. And to dovetail on Villisca, the 800 number, we're option number 4. It's like I'm American Idol. Vote for. We're option number 4 in American Idol. And lastly, if you're on social media, like us, Texas Workforce Commission page on Facebook, follow us. That's how I keep track of a lot of alerts and news that are coming out from our agency. So they are trying to really keep us informed of what's going on. So go there and check that out.
And we just want to tell everyone one more time, please be patient with the system. We went from an unemployment rate in our area of about 2.9% to who knows how much right now, and thousands of people applying. So be patient, and if you can use the website, that's the best way to go, especially late at night. Okay.
Just a real quick note, fun fact, Ed Cerna, our executive director, gave an interview last night in which he noted that we are up to over 2 million calls every day. That's about 61 calls every second of the day. And it's a matter where you just kind of have to be persistent and follow the instructions on the website, and give our office a call. Sometimes when no other number seems available, we are usually pretty good about picking up on the line. So 800-832-9394, and good luck to everybody.
Thank you,
Thank
Tom.
you all. Thank you all very much.
Thank you, guys.
Goodbye.
Bye.
Okay. Bye.